B-L-A-C-K. And my daddy was black, and his daddy was black. So, Mr. Officer, no, I can't help that. Won't you look at the facts? Tell me who's in charge. By the look on your face, the rules differ with ours. Rather see us in cars, wasting money at bars, filling lumps of cigars, living under the bar, but distract us with lights, make me feel like a star. If I spend it today, then no hope for tomorrow. It's the system we live, got me pinned to piss, still taking my shot. What if I don't miss? Can't live life like this, man, there's gotta be more. Yesterday I was drowning, now I'm climbing the shore. With this mic I grip, till the beats in the morgue. Got the world on my chest, but I'm only a George. Devil telling me stress, so I pray to the Lord. They think life is a game, well don't play on my board. No, 10, no, 4. Chin up, hold your head high. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did dirt just to get by. Chin up, hold your head high. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did. And my mama was black, and her mama was black. She got an army, in fact. That's my family, my pack. We spread over the map, but Lord knows where we at. Like a trick of a hat, I keep pulling these words, and I know that they feeling me. I keep pulling these nerves. They follow while I'm shopping, man. This king got me cursed. You would think that's the worst, but it follows since birth. I've been stuck on reverse. I just wanna be first, hoping everything lasts. Running from defeat with my feet on the path. Niggas want beef till we meet on the path. Got me on a days, it's been weeks on the path. I just keep walking with the world on my back. Quarter pound of Mary just to make me relax. I don't roll them dice, life is more than just craps. Jay-Z said they hate me cause I'm young and I'm black. Don't know where I'm headed, I'm designing the map. Chin up, hold your head high. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did dirt just to get by. Chin up, hold your head high. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did dirt just to get by. We all did dirt just to get by.
Hey guys, it's Doug Greater Than Addiction Foundation. Let me turn on my screen so I can show you guys what we got going on today. Alright, let me move this over. Alright, so we have a very, very interesting guest today. His name is Dr. Andrew, aka the Sober Doctor. I love having very intellectual, very smart people on this show to really share some light. Um, and man, I gotta tell you, stay tuned for this coming up conversation because it's really gonna open up a lot of eyes. He's focusing on something revolutionary that I'd really like to spread the message and get it out there because he's right. It's called emotional sobriety. And the whole idea is finding the problematic behaviors upstream, such as like why you are using, why you're escaping your reality, why why you want to do these drugs over and over and over again. And mostly the underlying issues of addiction is other mental health problems. So we're going to be touching on this in this upcoming podcast. I had him on Zoom. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a listen to Dr. Andrew, and hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Leave in the comments what you think, and yeah, let's get into it.
Douglas, great. Just says Greater Than Addiction Foundation. Awesome.
Yep. So this is a nonprofit that I started. We're based out of Nashua, New Hampshire, and the inspiration for this nonprofit really started when I lost my friend John to addiction back. Well, he actually died last January, but none of our friends or anybody even knew. His family didn't put him like in an obituary or anything for until I want to say May. We didn't find
Mm.
out. So that just really hurt me, because like obviously we would have liked to attend his funeral and services and all that stuff. So I was like, what can I do to help people in my area, because just the stigma of addiction, I believe, is really stopping people from reaching out and trying to get the help that they need, you know?
Yeah, that's stigma has been a life, that unfortunately it lingers. It permeates and lingers, and it precludes people from getting well or seeking help, especially in professional levels. I dealt with that myself. It's devastating to hear that your friend succumbed to addiction, and it seems like his friends weren't even aware of that. Just makes you wonder if people were hiding it or embarrassed.
Yeah, that's exactly how me and all my friends felt. We were like, how could we have not known this? Like I actually commented on his Facebook because I had the idea of starting this foundation. And I said, hey, John, message me. I haven't heard from you. And then his cousin messaged me and was like, oh, John won't be messaging you back. He died last January. I was like, what?
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of where we started, and we kind of blossomed this into a it's not super successful yet, but we've had 49 people referred, and just being able to help people in need is kind of the whole idea of this. So
What is what's so you get donations and then that goes to help individuals fund rehab or
yep,
detox or
yep.
all of the above?
So what we do is we have a free case management. So if you go to our website and you go to our intake page, we read the intake and we talk with the individual, because obviously everybody has different needs, um, and we find them the best program suited for them. Because basically, when I went into rehab in Nashua, I went to Greater Nashua Mental Health, and I went in, had my intake the first day, and then they were like, all right, your first appointment will be in 3 months. I was like, 3 months? I'm ready to kill myself now. What are you talking about? So that was just, it was crazy to me that that's what these people are doing. And I was like, how can I improve this process to get people into treatment the next day, or at least in 24 hours? And so that's what we've done. And it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle. It's all interpretation, I guess. I choose to use the word battle. It's liberating to get on the other side of addiction.
Yep.
And I part of my message is I kind of stopped diluting my message with individual substances, and I really have moved upstream and talked about the emotional sobriety. That's kind of the cornerstone of my own personal recovery from problematic behaviors, I like to call them. And it's not difficult once you get the framework, but it's getting the framework, which is the limiting factor right now. Finding competent individuals that can help sick and suffering, navigate the early stages of recovery. And it really is it's our whole system, our whole infrastructure is set up to serve more of the insurance companies and diagnosis codes, and not really actually keep people well once we get people well.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of statistics, and the return of patients going into these 12-step programs is very, very high. Like, they go through this program, they go into the sober, which I don't even really understand this whole idea of sobriety, like sober living. Like they take you out of your home and put you into a home with a bunch of other addicts. Like that, how is that gonna help anybody? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like they're not really focusing on recovering you so you can re-enter society. Like they want to micromanage you into being sober, which obviously has proven to not be working because they have an 8% success rate of staying sober if you go into a 12-step program.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I don't know how much you know about my story. I went to Betty Ford initially out in Center City. This was about 6 years ago, and I was coming off of a bunch of different substances, and so I did kind of a detox there. And then I went up to the Plymouth House. I'm in New Hampshire, so I went up to the Plymouth House, which is actually a 12-step retreat, and started my kind of recovery journey by doing a 4-step, a really exhaustive 4-step, which I have to say, 12 steps really kind of catapulted me into the 4-step in particular, which is really an inventory of self and how we operate in this world, really catapulted me into the realm of emotional sobriety, looking that the world's not the problem here. It's my interpretation of the world that's the problem, and it's me. And once I got well with Andrew through doing this kind of exhausted soul searching, and then continue to do this, which extends way beyond a 12-step model for me today. It's gotten me to a point where I'm extremely liberated by self, and I don't suffer the way that I used to. I used to suffer with severe depression, anxiety. I used to have to take antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications. I take nothing today. I haven't for 6 years. So, it is, I going back to what I said initially, it's not so much the 12-step process. It's the framework that's set up. I actually lived in sober living for a year. Now I have a house here in New Hampshire that I could have gone home to. And what I needed that first year was accountability. I needed to be able to prove to others that I wasn't using substance. And I also needed community. At the end of my career of alcoholism and drug addiction, I was extremely lonely. I'd kind of rooted myself in my house. I was barely working, and I was just so broken, and I didn't think there was any hope. And so getting into a kind of a community that could support me and I could identify with was actually quite helpful. I do think that the model of kind of forced this and forced that doesn't really work. You see that with the jail systems. And really what we need to do is help love individuals into getting the motivation to look at themselves. And that's the art of the emotional sobriety work, and that's the art of giving it back. And I don't have a 100% success rate, but I can tell you the individuals that I've sponsored, and I sponsor in a very emotional sober way. Today, I don't sponsor in a traditional 12-step way. They're all sober, and we meet on Tuesdays every night, every Tuesday at 7 p.m., a men's meeting for emotional sobriety. And these guys are living pretty impressive lives. So, it's working when we really stay accountable to ourselves. We operate with integrity. We show up for others. And at the end of the day, when we don't feel good, we realize that's on us, not on the world.
Yeah, I really like your message and the whole emotional sobriety. I can definitely see how that has definitely been working for more people than the traditional 12 steps, because mostly if you have an addiction problem, there's underlining mental health issues going on, and it's like you said, why am I repeating these behaviors? And finding those problematic behaviors, like, the first time I relapsed like a year ago, my friend's mom died, and he was sad, and he was like, want to drink with me? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I drank with him, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I do talks on emotional sobriety. I actually just did one for a big group of osteopathic physicians up here in New Hampshire, and my goal is to reframe how we look at addiction. We've become so myopic with looking at addiction as, what drug do you abuse? Are you a gambling addict? Are you a nicotine addict? Are you a food addict? Are you an exercise addict? Are you a drug addict? Are you a caffeine addict? Right? I mean, you can just go down the list of these are all behaviors, right? Drinking coffee is a behavior, smoking cigarettes is a behavior, gambling is a behavior. So I've really moved upstream. I've identified that, look, all humans have thought addictions. It comes from when we were little. It's grounded and solidified in childhood. I'll give you an example. I have a thought addiction to not good enough. I grew up in a perfectionistic family and was told numerous times that though I was doing well, I could still do better. And to a 5, 6, 7 year old, that can become problematic thinking patterns as I grow older. And so I carry that kind of those lenses of thought addiction into my adulthood, and I interpret the world in a manner that gives me the feelings that are associated with not good enough, which for me is depression. So it's not surprising that I developed a quote depressive disorder, and psychiatrists would diagnose me with quote major depressive disorder. At the end of the day, I just have problematic thinking patterns. And what's fascinating is most of these thought addictions that we develop don't have truth to them. The reality is my life. If you look at my life, you look at my resume, I'm everything. I'm doing great. I am good enough. If anything, I'm exceeding expectations. And yet that little 5-year-old part of my brain called the limbic system, that's our memory center, wants to continue to remind me that I'm not good enough. And so when I'm accountable to that and I can see that, because before I couldn't see that. So I was dealing with a host of emotions and feelings that I didn't understand why. But today I see and I can feel it. And when I can feel the physiology, for me, it tends to be a pit in my stomach. When I feel that feeling, I can move upstream and say, oh, I did it again. There's that thought again. And now I can operate with choice. And that's the difference between addiction and not addiction, is this concept that I can actually choose to get out of my negative thinking pattern. And that's fascinating. And that's the liberating part of this. And I'll extend it even further is those like myself who lived with depressive disorder. I don't live like that anymore because I've truly reshaped the part of my brain that wants to continue to tell me that I am not good enough. It's called neuroplasticity. It's real. I'm living, walking proof that it's real because I don't live the way I did 6 years ago. So it's not like my life is, I still have the same stresses. If anything, I have more stresses. As an ER director during a pandemic, that's extremely stressful. I've got a full family. I got married in recovery. I've got 2 stepchildren and my own daughter, so I can give you lots of chaos. Grandpa just moved in with us. So lots of circumstances for Andrew to access not good enough and feel depressed. But I don't do that anymore. I move forward. You got to stay in the conversation, though. And I think that's one of the biggest breakdowns with recovery is people don't stay in the conversation of recovery. For me, it's staying in the conversation of emotional sobriety, which means when I do something that's unsober, like dwell on my negative thinking, I've got to act on that. I've got to reach out. I've got to tell on myself. That's where the growth really comes. So.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Wow. Just a lot of information to take in.
A lot of information. I know. I'll give you some examples of thought addictions because people are probably listening to this and, I'm not important. That's a big one. Think of the child that grows up in a family where both working parents are struggling to make ends meet. And that kid's kind of a latchkey kid. So that child kind of grows up with this thinking pattern that he's not or she's not important, and carries that into adulthood and probably finds a spouse or people in their lives that will leave them or dismiss them. So they live into this narrative that started when they were little. And they actually go out. This is subconscious stuff. This is what's fascinating. This is the same with addiction. The difference between choice and addiction is that in addiction, you lose access to choice. The subconscious circuit. So the little kid that feels like they're not good enough, they live into a reality of not good enough, and not good enough, and not important. They live into a reality of not important. And so they'll go out in the world and they'll interpret things at work in their personal life. They will interpret the world through the lenses of I'm not important. And they'll get upset and they'll have breakdowns and they'll never truly understand why until you get opportunity to look at it through these lenses. this framework, this emotional sobriety. Emotional sobriety is so much bigger than not drinking and using drugs. The whole world would benefit from emotional sobriety. It doesn't matter if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic. Just somebody who's addicted to being victim or self-righteous. Those people would benefit from it. You can go on social media. I know that you and I are on Twitter together, or whatever it's called now, X, I guess. And right, we're on X, right? Whatever. And you can just you start to look at posts through the lenses of self-righteousness and victim, and it's like, wow, like it's right there. It's just this pervasive circuit of problematic communication and little 5-year-old limbic systems that are now adults that are putting tweets up or whatever we call them now, that are going to access the not good enoughs, the not importance, the I'm always wrong, the I need to be rights. It's maddening.
Yep.
And the breakdown is the behavior, right? Like you said it earlier. The behavior is where we find breakdown. No one ever died of thinking addiction, and no one ever died of emotional addiction to depression, anxiety. They died of the behavior associated with those two. Suicide, overdose, car accidents, the behavior, reckless driving, whatever that is, the behavior, running up mountains, because you're addicted to adrenaline and exercise. I'm not saying don't exercise. I'm a big exercise advocate, but nobody ever died of the thought itself or the emotion.
Yeah, I get that. One of the good quotes I saw that really put addiction in perspective for me is I just had a brain fart. Hold on, maybe I can pull it up. So addiction is any repeat activity that you do that gets you out of mind. So working out, like you said, that's an addiction, but it's a healthy addiction. Playing video games. I was addicted to video games, and I was addicted to video games at a very young age because I didn't have to be in my reality when I was playing video games, if that makes sense. I was sucked into it, and I didn't have to deal with all the shitty things that was going on in my personal life, like in my household and my parents getting divorced and stuff like that. I was just playing video games, and I got addicted to it because I was able to relieve that stress of the world. And then that blossomed into other things, marijuana and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like this whole idea of emotional sobriety. I would really like to invite you to come on our forums and share some information there, and because that's kind of the whole idea of Greater Than Addiction Foundation is we want to be open sourced. We really want to be able to give this information to people for free. I see all the time that there's recovery centers that sell basically information to clients. Like, oh, is your family struggling with addiction? Come here and pay $27 and we'll tell you how to handle it. That's just weird to me. Why are you charging people for this information? It makes no sense.
I'm fascinated by your description of your childhood. I'm hearing the child in a home that's got some disruption, and a lot of my work extends to going back to when we were children. We call them adverse childhood experiences, and just childhood experiences in general, and see how that shapes the child into a young adulthood. And you nailed it, is that you were in chaos of some sort, and as a little kid wanted to escape. You wanted to escape the feelings you were having. And so video games played a great role in that. And initially that first video game was not harmful. And that behavior pattern of escapism can become harmful. And that's the defining line for me with addiction is when you repeat a behavior despite negative consequences. And so, if you're not showing up to school, if you're distracted, if you're not getting to your sporting games, all of those things show that this is an addictive circuit. And then you find things like, I think you said marijuana and other behaviors like, maybe drinking alcohol, and that's a great way to escape. A lot of us found that substances like alcohol, marijuana, drugs, various drugs do a great quick way of escaping the upstream emotional and thinking breakdowns that we're having. So the liberation for us, for you, for me, for people that suffer this way, and actually for the whole world, is to move upstream and really identify the thinking that was going on when you were 5, 6, 7 years of age, and then see how that thinking pattern translates into your adulthood. 99% of the time, you carry the same thought patterns into adulthood, and most of us never even know we do this. We just wonder why we have, stress and frustration, and why our bosses don't like us, and why we have, the next girlfriend, the next boyfriend. You just wonder why you have all this circuit. And once you've moved upstream and really identified your thinking patterns, now we can operate at a completely different level. We're at a conscious level, and now we can choose. And now we can actually make, analysis and self-regulatory behaviors based off of our self-awareness. And that is so fascinating to me today, is that I don't have to operate off of reactivity anymore. It's liberating, and it's free. This work, I went to a therapist that got me kind of kickstarted on this. So obviously I paid for her services, but the reality is once you start doing this work and you get a group doing it together, you're not paying for it. You're just showing up for one another, but you are holding each other accountable. And that's really key. And it's uncomfortable. This work isn't pleasant. When you start to do this work and start to dive into the recesses of the brain that drove you to drinking and using drugs and almost killed you, that's a dark place to go. But on the other side of the darkness is a light that's unbelievable. And again, I'm living proof of it today.
Yeah. When I first went into recovery, I was put on medication, and the medication was Zoloft. I tried that drug in the past, and they said that it takes like 4 weeks for it to start working. And when I did it in the past, I took it for 4 weeks. 4 weeks came around, I didn't feel any different, so I just stopped taking the medication. But when I went into recovery a little bit like a year and a half ago, and I got re-put on that drug, and 6 weeks came around, and the medication started working, I literally cried because I was like, holy shit, like I haven't felt genuine happiness in probably 10 years. And it was insane to me. It was like, how can anybody feel like this not hammered, like it was life changing for me.
Yeah, there's definitely, I like to look at it all as medication assisted treatment. And, people talk about Suboxone. But the reality is we have access to a multitude of medication assisted treatments. I personally don't take anything, but I've been on many, many antidepressants, and they have helped me at extremely dark periods of my life where I wanted to die. And so I'm a big advocate of medication assisted therapy if there's an asterisk here. The asterisk is that you have to have access to doing the real work, the internal work. No pill's going to do the internal work for you. No pill's going to get me back to childhood and help me understand how I developed the thinking pattern of I'm not good enough. I need to be right. No pill's going to do that, but it might actually balance my neurochemistry enough so I have the willingness and the ability to start the work. And that's the growth that extends with medication assisted therapy. And I feel the same way about Suboxone and all the other adjuncts out there. I've been on Suboxone, so I'm a living, I've lived multiple different lives when it comes to recovery. So I have the street credit. I've been there and done that. And so I know what the physiology feels like. I know what it's like. I think that's what makes it easier for me to connect with anyone, is that I've been down so many dark roads with this behavioral breakdown, and I've come through the other side. And like I said today, I drink coffee and I eat food. Food still has mind-altering properties, they tell me, but we have to have food to eat, right? I always love that.
Might as well make it delicious.
Yeah, people start to get all upset when they talk about mind-altering stuff. Well, food's mind-altering. I'm like, come on, guys. Where does it end? I mean, and again, that a lot of that is people, individuals are addicted to self-righteousness. They want to be right. It feels good to tell someone they're wrong. That's sick. There's a sickness there. I do it. I still have, to look at my I chose a profession that is predicated on being right. Emergency doctors can't be 50%. If I'm a baseball player and I hit 50-50, right? A 500 batting average is damn good. But emergency doctors have to be 1,000, or you get sued or bad outcomes for patients. And so I actually subconsciously, I think, chose a profession that was perfect for me to go into to access the not good enough that I developed as a kid. It's fascinating. It's awesome. I love my profession today.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to be able to talk with an ER doctor. I got to tell you, this is the first time I think I've ever talked to a doctor out of the ER room.
Nice.
So
Nice.
so it's pretty cool. Um,
We have some lived experience that we can share together too. I'm
yeah,
not terminally unique. There are others of us out there. We just like you started with the conversation of stigma. Look, I spent years wanting to get help, and I was deathly afraid of losing my job and my livelihood. You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars going to medical school, and you give up your 20s, doing education unpaid, as a student and a resident, minimal pay. And you know, I got blessed in New Hampshire. We have the most amazing professionals health program, the NHPHP, and I was in that for 5 years, and I did my accountability with that. I did my drug screens every week, for 5 years, and it's an accountability thing. It's important. I need to prove to the world that I'm staying straight, and to have that safe space that I can say I need help, and they welcomed me, and it wasn't punitive. It's great, and I would love to have more for my colleagues, because I know there's a lot more docs out there suffering, and it's not just doctors. I mean, we're all suffering. Just look around. Mental health, addiction. The way I framed addiction is I really look at depression as an addiction to depression now. I look at anxiety as an addiction to anxiety. People that live in depressed affects, they're going out in the world and they're interpreting the world to get depressed. And that's the truth of it. They don't have to live like that, but they don't understand why they're doing it. They got to go back to childhood and start to see where those thinking patterns occurred, and then have the right space, create the space, whether that's therapy with a therapist, group help, whatever that is, so that they can continue to evolve.
yeah. Um, I just wanted to say, so I was in the U.S. Navy, and when I was in boot camp, I lost a girlfriend to suicide, and I think that really spiraled me into my drinking problem. And I knew I was depressed, but when you're in the military, if you go and tell your commanding officer that you think you have depression, you can be kicked out. So it's punitive. So I just kind of lived with it and just drank and self-medicated and until everybody noticed and I was discharged medically. And it just sucks that that's how. I mean, it makes sense for the military for that to happen, but it just really sucked that like nobody was like, well, why are you drinking so much? They were just like, you're drinking? Get out! And I was like, oh shit, okay.
I'll share this with you. I imagine if the military had some platform that helped individuals get emotionally sober. I will tell you this in my experience, emotionally sober people are people I want around me. Emotionally sober people are people I want running hospitals. I want emotionally sober people being my doctors, lawyers, congressmen. I want people emotionally sober. Emotionally sober people operate at a level of integrity and accountability. They operate wanting to love other people. They want to connect with the world. They want to affect change that's positive for others, not just self. So this is the cornerstone of emotional sobriety. So wouldn't it be amazing to take you and create space so that you have emotionally sober people in the armed forces? I'm not saying there aren't, but the reality is instead of saying, okay, you're sick, you're an alcoholic, we need to get you out of here, put some energy into getting you well, and now you've got a pretty stellar human being. So it's ass backwards. We push things under the rug because we just don't want it. If we don't see it, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there'll be another Navy guy that will just take your space. I mean, it's sad. It's sad how we've approached this.
Yeah, the
You know, and I'll also
Navy's.
share this. But the emotionally sober look, people always ask me about like I had a DEA agent ask me once, and they said he was telling me all the drug busts he's done and how awesome it is that they got this cartel or whatever, and I looked at this guy and I said, if we got everyone emotionally sober, there would be no need for the suppliers because the demanders wouldn't want to alter their minds. And he just kind of looked at me like, that's a weird thought. Like, what? And I'm like, the reality is the cornerstone of emotional sobriety is that you're okay with how you feel in the moment. You don't have to escape. You don't have to distract. You actually inquire. When you feel a feeling you don't like, you actually move into that feeling and you say why, and then you move upstream and identify the thought. And once you've done that a handful of times, you've reshaped your relationship to the feeling in the first place. And so the feeling's just okay. It is anxiety, stress, a little sadness. It is. It's the human condition. All emotions serve a purpose. It's when they become repetitive despite, harm where there's real breakdown.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think it's pretty wild when you hear people like saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go to China and we're gonna take out all the fentanyl manufacturers," and it's like that. If somebody is buying, someone will be selling.
Yeah.
So, so if we recover our community, then the drug peddling will just dwindle away because nobody's buying.
That's it. Treat the demanders and the suppliers are a non-thing.
Yep.
Don't even need to worry about it. All
Yeah.
those cocoa plants down wherever, they'll just do whatever they would have done, 100 million years ago. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
and that's, part of my platform. And again, I'd like to think it's more than a pipe dream, but, my platform is really how do I help get the world emotionally sober? And, it starts with these types of things, doing your podcast. And, for me, it's doing some talks through right now, the state of New Hampshire, whenever there's a need and just getting that message out, just starting to kind of paint a picture that the breakdown is not the substance or the behavior. The breakdown is the thinking and the corresponding emotions. And so we really need to move upstream. And the great thing about emotional sobriety is it's your treatment for most of your mental health stuff too. You get someone who's like, I was morbidly depressed. I lived in depression. And like I said before, I don't do that anymore. It's not because I had some fancy chemical, change in my brain artificially. It's because I changed my own chemical structure as a result of doing the work. The neuroplasticity, the reframing, the reshaping of the parts of the brain that would originally have just kept me sick, living a life of despair and disdain.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Andrew, we got like 6 minutes left. So, is there any closing statements you'd like to make? Tell the world any upcoming events or how people can contact you, stuff like that?
Yeah, you can find me on I want to say call it Twitter. I struggle with that. It just tweets were so much cooler to say. I don't know. What do you say? I X'd someone today? I don't know. Anyways,
That sounds kind of
you can
cool.
find me. Yes, right. So sober doc, sober doctor is the handle if you want to reach out to me. I'm pretty transparent. I do recovery stuff. I don't get into banter and I have to look at my own behaviors and I'll say that just showing up for one another. I do a men's meeting. If people are interested, you can reach out to me. Men's meeting on Zoom every Tuesday at 7 p.m. I've been doing it for years, and I've got a core group of men here in New Hampshire, and they really support me, and actually worldwide at this point. And it's fascinating to see when you get on the other side of addiction and you really cultivate an emotionally sober mind frame. It's really more of a state of being conversation for me today. When I wake up in the morning, I have choice. And the choice really is simple: is am I going to be emotionally sober or not? And do I carry that throughout the day? And there's going to be hiccups throughout a day. There can be an email. There can be something said at work. My wife can say something. My kid can say something, and it might derail me for a split second. But emotional sobriety gives me an opportunity to reflect, and not react. And it was in the reactive brain that I found most of my breakdowns. And in reflection, in calculated, healthy response, life seems to be working. So I'm going to stick with it. So, yeah, it was great to meet you, Douglas. I wish I could have seen you. I guess I'll have to watch the podcast.
That's how I get you.
Talking to a blank screen, man. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
it's like
sorry
torture.
about that. I don't
No,
know
no
why.
worries.
Whenever I send a personal Zoom
Yeah.
meeting, the camera never works, but when I send no, I have that ass backwards. When I send an invite on Gmail, for some reason the camera never works. But if I send a personal room invite on Zoom, then the camera works. So I don't know how they got that going. But yeah, if you watch us on YouTube, you'll be able to see me and see my sweet beard wearing a Red Sox hat.
Nice. Socks.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
I am from the West Coast, so I'm not gonna lie. I was happy to see the Niners doing pretty well this year. So I grew up in the Bay Area, but I've been out here 8 years, so I wouldn't mind a little bit of snow right now. It seems to be raining up here in the Whites right now. So
Yeah, it's raining down here in southern New Hampshire as well. Actually, it looks kind of icy, like frozen rain. I can see it on the tree outside. But all right, sir. I'll
Hey.
post your Twitter in the video description on YouTube, and once I edit this video and put it together, I'll send it to you on Twitter so you can see me.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, thanks for doing what you do, Douglas. And if there's anything I can do to support your endeavors in terms of emotional sobriety, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, thank you, sir. All right.
All right.
Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Bye. I do that every time. I always forget to turn my mic on. Well, so we just had a great conversation with Dr. Andrew, the sober doctor. I really like having guests of his magnitude on the show. I really like to highlight that people in very professional jobs are able to get sober and stay sober. So it just goes to show that it doesn't really matter where you are in life. You can get sober, and it's beautiful on the other side, man. That's the whole idea of this whole thing is I just want to be able to help people in need and get people the resources that they need to get sober. One of the big topics that you heard in this conversation is sense of community. And at Greater Than Addiction Foundation, we have built that community, an online platform, GTAF Forums. This is it right on the page. You can see. Not many people are using it yet. I really would like to get more of a community going here and talking on subjects. We have a wide range of subjects just for people in recovery who want to connect with other people in recovery. You can do it right on your cell phone. You can do it on a desktop, and it's just a great place for people to come and share thoughts about a wide range of subjects. And we even have a chat box up here. This is real time. You can chat in real time. So yeah, when you sign on, I'll log out. If you go to our website and then go to the pages and then drop down to forums, this is what you're going to see. You can register right here. The registration's very, very quick. You just need a couple things, enter the CAPTCHA, and you're registered. You can start chatting and start sharing your ideas, feelings, and people will comment back, and it's a great tool to use, guys. So usually at the end of my videos, I like to talk a little bit about our foundation and what we got going on. Our first big fundraiser is coming up. It was supposed to be February 2nd, which would be next Friday, but we had to postpone it. We had to postpone it because we do not have general liability insurance yet. And for us to go to City Hall, we have to have general liability. So we're looking for donations so we can purchase the general liability, so we can do this event, so we can go out and start fundraising. So if you go to greaterthanaddiction.org, please donate so we can purchase this general liability. And we got a Facebook event going on. So far, 21 people have responded. So thank you guys for everybody that responded and they want to go. And 15 people are interested. That's great. I hope all you guys show up when we do put on the event. We have the potential launch date for this event, March 22nd. And it could be a really sweet event, guys. We can have food vendors there. I want to get a taco truck there. We're gonna have some keynote speakers right on the city hall steps, and I'm trying to get the mayor to come out. Hopefully, he has time that day and he can come and make an appearance and uh, listen to our keynote speaker and uh, really motivate some people to help us. We need help. This is a community project. I can't do it all on my own. Um, Recently, we also brought in Adam Long as our treasurer. Adam Long is a very, very good salesman. He's good with money. He's going to be able to take our fundraising to the next level. So hopefully we can start getting some donations in, and we can really get this ball rolling. Um, so yeah, go to the forum, sign up, start chatting it up. I hope you guys really liked listening to Dr. Andrew. Emotional sobriety, guys. Emotional sobriety. That's what it's all about. You gotta dissect the reasons why you drink so much, why you're using cocaine, why are you doing these repeat behaviors that you know have bad consequences. It's all in the head, man. It's all in the head. And you gotta dissect it for yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. Alright? You guys gotta look deep within yourselves and you gotta see. You gotta see. And once you see, it's the fucking light, man. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to not be addicted anymore, man. Trust me, I've been there. The people I've had on the show have been there. We had a retired federal judge who used to inject meth, and she became a federal fucking judge. We have Dr. Andrew. He's an ER doctor. He's a director of the ER doctors in Plymouth, New Hampshire. And he got sober, and he's still sober. And he accredits to emotional sobriety, which I'm a huge fan of. I definitely support that idea. So if you guys like this video, please go ahead, give us a subscribe down there, give us a like on this video, and hope to see you guys at the next one. All right, thanks.